बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम और अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं हूं वजाहत सईद खान। पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ बहुत सारे महाज खुले, कुछ हमने खुद खोले और काफी सारे हमारे खिलाफ खोले गए। आज का महाज बंदर बांट के नाम। जी हां, फरवरी 12 की सुबह है और बंदर बांट ऑफिशियली शुरू हो गई है। पीडीएम पार्ट 2 बनने जा रहा है, लग ऐसा ही रहा है। इसको हम पीडीएम पार्ट 2 नहीं कहेंगे, ये तो बोरिंग है। पीडीएम बोरिंग था, पीडीएम पार्ट 2 तो और भी बोरिंग फिल्म होगी। इस फिल्म का हमने जो नाम रखा है, जो बहुत सारे अब कहने लग गए हैं, इस फिल्म का नाम है एडीसी, मतलब आर्मी डाकू चोर अलायंस। क्योंकि आर्मी बलूचिस्तान चलाएगी जैसे वो रिवायती तौर पे चलाती है, डाकू जो है वो राज रिवायती तौर पे सिंध में करते रहे हैं, और चोरों की नजर जो है वो पंजाब की तरफ है। इसलिए ये एडीसी अलायंस है। ये वो वाला एडीसी नहीं जो बेचारा फौजी वर्दी पहन के वजीर आजम के पीछे नौकरों की तरह फिरता है। ये वो वाला एडीसी नहीं है, हालांकि वो भी शायद उस किस्म की भी ये बन सकती है हुकूमत, मगर ये वो वाला एडीसी है जिसमें आर्मी और डाकू और चोर एक साथ आप पे राज करेंगे। हाँ, अगर इसमें मुत्तहिदा भी शामिल होता है, जो अभी तक वो लग नहीं रहा, मगर मुत्तहिदा कभी भी अपना गेम डाल सकता है, और मुत्तहिदा ने बात की है कल परसों में नवाज शरीफ साहब से। तो अगर इसमें मुत्तहिदा आता है तो फिर इस अलायंस का नाम बदली होगा, क्योंकि ये फिर ABCD अलायंस होगा। मतलब A फॉर आर्मी, B फॉर बदमाश, C फॉर चोर और D फॉर डाकू। क्योंकि आर्मी जो है बलूचिस्तान में, बदमाश जो है मुत्तहिदा के वो कराची में, चोर जो हैं पंजाब के, और डाकू जो है वो सिंध के आप सब पे राज करेंगे। पहली मीटिंग जो हुई है बिलावल हाउस लाहौर में, उसकी तरफ चलते हैं। लंबी लंबी झपियां हुई इस मीटिंग में। अब मैं याद दिलाता चलूं आपको कि जो पहली मीटिंग हुई थी ये अनऑफिशियली एक हुई थी, वो पीपीपी ने डिनाई कर दी, क्योंकि उन दिनों में जो है वो फरवरी 9 को हुई थी, और उस वक्त जो वोटों की गिनती है वो खत्म भी नहीं हुई थी, और ये दोनों पार्टीज ने मिल लिया था। तो पीपीपी ने वो डिनाई कर दिया था कि नहीं नहीं वो एक अभी हम मिले थे। मगर एनीवेज इस मीटिंग में लंबी लंबी झपियां हुई। इतनी झपियां, इतनी पपियां, इतनी स्माइल्स तो मैंने, मेरा ख्याल है बिलावल साहब ने और फिर जरदारी साहब ने इतनी बहुत पपियां झपियां शायद ईद पे भी नहीं की हों। अब बॉडी लैंग्वेज पे से जो नजर आ रहा है, बिलावल साहब रिलैक्स थे, जरदारी साहब एज यूजुअल स्माइलिंग, और ये जो पीएमएल नून वाले थे जो रिश्ता लेके गए थे बेचारे, ये थोड़े टेंस लग रहे थे। अब इन्होंने इन प्रिंसिपल अग्री किया है कि ये पाकिस्तान की को स्टेबलाइज करेंगे। इन्होंने कल इन प्रिंसिपल पीएमएल नून ने धोखा खाया जब मुत्तहिदा के साथ भी उन्होंने यही स्टेटमेंट दी थी कि हमने इन प्रिंसिपल मुल्क को स्टेबलाइज करने के लिए डिसाइड कर लिया है। मुत्तहिदा मुकर गया, मगर अभी तक पीपीपी तो है नहीं मुकरा। ये वीडियो जो है ये बनना शायद यही इसी बात का सबूत है कि पीपीपी थोड़ा सा अपने पावर एक्सपोज कर रहा है। सिर्फ बाप बेटे से मिले और कोई पीपीपी का बंदा नहीं था, मगर ये पूरा टब्बर गया। अब इस पूरे टब्बर की बॉडी लैंग्वेज फिर से मैं देखूंगा, क्योंकि पूरा टब्बर जो है इसकी मिक्स बॉडी लैंग्वेज थी। अब हम सुन रहे हैं कि पीपीपी वाले जो हैं वो तकरीबन हर चीज मांग रहे हैं जहेज में। वो सेनेट भी मांग रहे हैं, वो प्रेसिडेंसी भी मांग रहे हैं, सेनेट चेयरमैनशिप मांग रहे हैं, बाय द वे वो फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री भी मांग रहे हैं। इसलिए शायद जो हमारे दोस्त एहसन इकबाल साहब हैं जो होने वाले थे फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर, इसलिए शायद उनका मूड ऑफ है। पीपीपी ने जबरदस्त तरीके से जमीन बना दी थी। कल परसों में इनके दीगर लीडर्स ने ट्वीटें की थी कि वजीर आजम बिलावल भुट्टो को बनना चाहिए, और कोई वजीर आजम हो ही नहीं सकता, और अगर वजीर आजम बिलावल भुट्टो जरदारी नहीं बना तो हम ऑपोजिशन में बैठेंगे। तो ये ऑलरेडी बेचारे जो रिश्ता मांगने गए थे, ऑलरेडी ये थोड़ा सा नीचे हुए हुए थे, इनकी बॉडी लैंग्वेज से भी नजर आ रहा है। मीनवाइल दूसरी तरफ लाहौर से ही लतीफ खोसा साहब, पीटीआई के नौ मुंतखब जो लीडर है, वो उन्होंने बहुत बड़ा क्लेम किया है। वो कह रहे हैं कि जो पीटीआई है वो 170 सीटें क्लेम कर सकती है रिजर्व सीटों के साथ, और 50 और फॉर्म 45 बेस पे इंडिपेंडेंट कैंडिडेट्स के सबूत देके और शवायद देके कह रहे हैं कि हमारे पास फॉर्म 45 के स्टैम्प्स हैं, सिग्नेचर्स हैं, प्रिजाइडिंग ऑफिसर्स के स्टैम्प्स हैं, सिग्नेचर्स हैं, पोलिंग ऑफिसर्स के दस्तावेजात हैं, और हम ये हुकूमत अकेले ही बना सकते हैं। कॉन्फिडेंस शो किया, मगर ये कॉन्फिडेंस जो है ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ जो जुडिशरी है वो जब डिसाइड करेगी तो फिर शायद ये हो सकेगा, वरना जो है ABCD या ADC अलायंस आपको नजर आएगा। फिर कराची की तरफ चलते हैं। फारूक सत्तार ने क्लेम किया है कि कराची जाग गया है। तकरीबन तमाम कराची की सीटें जो हैं वो इन्होंने क्लेम की हैं मुत्तहिदा ने, तो ये कह रहे हैं कि कराची जाग गया है। डॉक्टर साहब, मैं आपसे एग्री करता हूँ, डेफिनेटली कराची वैसे ही जागा है जैसे जब रात को इंसान बेचारा शहरी गरीब सो रहा होता है और उसके घर में कोई दीवार फलांग के या शीशा तोड़ के या दरवाजा तोड़ के कोई जब जैसे ही एक चोर या डाकू अंदर आता है, आवाज आती है, लोग चीखें मारते हैं, बंदा जाग जाता है। वैसे ही कराची भी वैसे ही जागा है, क्योंकि आपने जो डाका मारा है माशाल्लाह से जिस तरीके से कराची में, वेल डन। बिल्कुल आपने कराची को वैसे ही जगाया है जैसे चोर डाकू एक सोते हुए शहरी को जगाते हैं। फिर पेशावर की तरफ चलते हैं। एमल वली खान ने छक्का मारा है। ये बिल्कुल मैं सार्कास्टिक नहीं हो रहा, वाकई इन्होंने बड़ी अच्छी बात की है। वैसे अच्छी बातें ज्यादा करते नहीं है, इन्होंने बड़े अरसे बाद अच्छी बात की है। एएनपी के लीडर हैं। कुछ अरसा पहले इन्होंने इमरान खान और उनकी बेगम की काफी बेइज्जती की थी, जो हमारे कल्चर में, पश्तूनों के कल्चर में ये नाजेब जो बातें हैं खवातीन के बारे में, फैमिली के बारे में नहीं की जाती। मगर एनीवेज इस पे इन्होंने अपोलोजाइज भी किया था। आज इन्होंने बड़ा सोच साच के जो इनके साथ हुआ है, इन्होंने अच्छी एक बात की है। इन्होंने कहा है कि वोट नहीं मैटर करते, वोट गिनने वाले मैटर करते हैं। और तमाम जो सियासी फोर्सेस हैं उनको ये जो डर्टी गेम है डीप फोर्सेस का, अंग्रेजी कमजोर है कोई बात नहीं, मगर कह रहे हैं कि ये जो डर्टी गेम ऑफ डीप फोर्सेस है, मेरे ख्याल कहना चाह रहे थे डीप स्टेट फोर्सेस जो हैं, वो उनके खिलाफ ये लोगों को मुत्तहिद हो जाना चाहिए। इनफ इज इनफ कहते हैं एमल वली। कोई बात नहीं, देर आए दुरुस्त आए। ऑल्सो लाहौर में पार्टी हुई है जी, ये जबरदस्त पार्टी हुई है। वैसे तो एक न्यू ईयर्स पार्टी होती है, एक बर्थडे पार्टी होती है, मगर ये लोटा पार्टी हुई है। वसीम कादिर साहब जो लोटा नंबर 1 बन गए हैं पीटीआई के, जो चले गए हैं पीएमएल नून में। ये ऑब्वियसली जो लोटा पार्टी है, इसमें शरीक घर के अंदर जो हैं वो हुई मरियम नवाज साहिबा। इस लोटे पे बहुत सेलिब्रेट किया इस लोटे को पीएमएल नून ने। राना सनाउल्लाह ने कहा कि ये बहुत बड़ी विकेट है जो पीएमएल नून ने हासिल की है। एब्सोल्युटली जबरदस्त इन्होंने काम किया है कि लोटा भर दिया है। मेरा तो ख्याल है ये इनको एक टीम बना लेनी चाहिए ऑफिशियली, क्योंकि ये चीफ ऑर्गेनाइजर हैं पीएमएल नून की। मेरा ख्याल है ये इनको एक टीम, इस टीम का नाम जो है वो बाकी रखना चाहिए, लोटा टीम, कि लोटे को कैसे पकड़ना है, लोटे को कैसे भरना है, लोटे को कैसे खुश रखना है, साफ रखना है, ताकि ये हम क्लियर हो जाएं क्लियरली। एक रिश्ता टीम है जो शहबाज शरीफ साहब लेके गए हैं बिलावल हाउस, और एक लोटा टीम है जो खुद मरियम नवाज शरीफ साहिबा चला रही हैं। आई एम वेरी हैप्पी फॉर बोथ ऑफ देम, वेरी गुड ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल बिहेवियर। मीम गेम, आज हम मीम गेम पे चलते हैं। आज मेरा मीम गेम स्ट्रांग है। आज मुझसे एक गलती से एक मीम बन गई। वैसे तो बंदा बड़ा सोच के मीम्स जो है फॉरवर्ड करता है, बनाता है कभी कभी, मगर मुझसे गलती से बन गई। इधर सुपर बोल हो रहा था, सुपर बोल अमेरिकी फुटबॉल का वर्ल्ड कप होता है सालाना। अब अमेरिकी भी मीटर है ना, आदत के मजबूर हैं, फुटबॉल जो है इधर हाथों से खेलते हैं। अब मुझे गलती से शौक है, मैं कॉलेज में था तो मैं भी थोड़ी बहुत मैंने खेली। एनीवेज मैं शौकीन हूँ और सुपर बोल देख रहा था। सुपर बोल जो है वो एक टीम है जिसका नाम कैंजस सिटी चीफ्स है। ये कैंजस सिटी की टीम है, इसका नाम चीफ्स है। ये जो है ये मुझे बिल्कुल नापसंद है ये टीम। ये जीत गए तो मैंने गुस्से में ट्वीट किया, चीफ्स आर थीव्स, मतलब चीफ जो हैं वो चोर हैं। मेरे बेचारे बहुत सारे मेरे भाई बहन जो ट्विटर पे मुझे फॉलो करते हैं, उन्होंने ये रीट्वीट करना शुरू कर दिया, क्योंकि ये समझे कि वो वाले चीफ जो हैं वो चोर हैं, फुटबॉल वाले चीफ नहीं, दूसरे पिंडी वाले चीफ जो चोर हैं। अब लोग भी बेचारे आदत से मजबूर हैं, हम क्या करें कि अगर वो ये समझते हैं। साथ साथ जैसे प्रॉमिस किया था वैसे ही डिलीवर कर रहा हूं। इंडियन मीडिया से मैं आजकल काफी इंटरेक्ट कर रहा हूं। इंडियंस हमें बहुत गौर से देख रहे हैं, क्योंकि इंडियंस ये समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि उनके रिवायती हरीफ मतलब फौज और उनके रिवायती दोस्त मतलब नवाज शरीफ को एक ही बंदे ने एक ही रात में कैसे फारिग कर दिया है। इमरान खान की और इलेक्शन की मैं बात कर रहा हूं, और इस में वो काफी इंटरेस्टेड है। मगर मेरा जो मौकिफ है वो मैं इंडियंस को एक्सप्लेन करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि नवाज शरीफ तो शायद वैसे ही खत्म हो गया है, क्योंकि अब फौज पे वो डिपेंडेंट हो गया, जो फौज कहेगी वही करेगा। मगर इस सब में सबसे बड़ा जो लूजर है वो फौज है। इस पूरे इलेक्शन के बाद, इस पूरे 1.5-2 साल के ड्रामे के बाद जो नजर आ रहा है वो फौज है। इलेक्शन से पहले भी फौज लूज कर रही थी, लोगों की सपोर्ट फौज ने लूज की है। लोगों की सपोर्ट के बगैर फौज कुछ नहीं है, एक तो वो लूज किया, और अब इलेक्शन से वो जो डिफीट है फौज की वो अब सील हो गई है, क्योंकि अब लोगों ने वोट भी डाल दिया है। इमरान खान के लिए कम और इस्टेब्लिशमेंट के खिलाफ ज्यादा ये वोट है, ये एंटी स्टेटस वोट, एंटी इस्टेब्लिशमेंट वोट है। मैंने अपना मौकिफ कैसे डिफेंड किया, मेरे कॉलीग स्नेहिश एलेक्स फिलिप द प्रिंट के ये जर्नलिस्ट हैं, एक जमाने में इस्लामाबाद में होते थे, उधर हमारी मुलाकात हुई। काफी अच्छी तरह ये पाकिस्तानी सियासत और पाकिस्तानी फौज को जानते हैं, बड़े अच्छे इन्होंने इंटरेस्टिंग सवाल किए। द प्रिंट जो है बहुत मोतबर जरीदा है इंडिया का, जरूर ये शो देखें और समझें कि आपके जो साथ वाले हैं वो आप पे कितनी कड़ी नजर रखते हैं और किस किस्म के सवाल पूछते हैं, ताकि उन्हें समझ आए कि आपका क्या किया जाए। अब शो की तरफ चलते हैं और बिफोर आई गो, शेयर, लाइक, सब्सक्राइब, कमेंट। मेरा गोल है अनकरीब 400,000 हिट करना। I'm within shooting distance. You gotta help me get there. You gotta support my channel, and you have to, by the way, look at the membership options as well, जो मेरे main page पे हैं, वो भी देखें about how you can support the channel further. चलें, अपना ख्याल रखें. Have a great Monday morning, Monday afternoon, and I will see you in a few hours. Take care. Pakistan, Zindabad. Now, everybody's familiar with these names. We all know Imran Khan. We all know Nawaz Sharif. We all know the Bhuttos. What we don't know much about is, of course, the Pakistan Army. It's a very powerful institution, but they play their cards close to their chest. They, of course, don't run for office, but they are a political player, if not the puppet master behind the current dispensation. And they too are in this race, though they haven't won any seats. They have lost today. If there's a net loser today, it is the Pakistan Army, because while the Army has for decades, Snehish, held some sort of a role in figuring out who's going to come to power, you need a green light from GHQ to assume any sort of major office in Pakistan, more so than the office of the Prime Minister. But the generals today have lost because, the way the election was rigged in the final stages, 15-hour delay, the Election Commission shut down, an inexplicable internet and mobile blackout across the country. Returning officers, these are the chaps who announce the elections, them being picked up, disappeared into the dark of the night, only to re-emerge 10, 12, 15 hours later and actually contradict their earlier pronouncements that the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has won. Now, all of this would be considered rigging in any country, but Pakistan has been particularly polarized because of who the rigging has been conducted against. Imran Khan is currently serving time in prison. He's serving 31 years in prison for and was convicted not too long ago, just last week, for espionage, for adultery, as well as for corruption. The military complex, which includes the Nawaz and the Bhutto regime, have thrown everything at Imran, including the kitchen sink. Nothing has stuck, and he's still got a massive, massive voter turnout for him. The Pakistani political economic state doesn't help either, because the economy is in a mess. The stock market is crashing. There's a lot of uncertainty, and more than 24 hours after polls closed, you are looking at, a rigging of unlike any other sort that I've seen in living memory, because while the army has always rigged the election in some sort of way, this time the gloves are off. The veil has been lifted. The rigging is so, despite the constitutionalism, which is a part of the state. Remember, India and Pakistan came around at the same time, similar constitutional background, similar common British law. But now it seems that this Pakistan resembles more the Myanmar Burmese military today than it resembles the Indian or any other South Asian military today. So that's where we're at in terms of where the military and the major players stand.
Wajahat, just for our viewers, I'll just recall what has happened till now. Imran Khan was everybody would say elected, but some, including me, would say was the selected prime minister who went rogue as far as the Pakistani army is concerned. Imran Khan is behind bars. He's serving, as you said, 31 years in jail. His party, that is the PTI, was not allowed to contest the elections. So he's put up candidates as independents, right? And this time, the selected PM was supposed to be Nawaz Sharif. Now, what really happened, is there, and if at all, if for some strange reason, let's assume in a real world or in a democratic world, if those independents if their victory is allowed, what would have happened? Would Imran Khan have become the prime minister again?
Well, probably not. Again, like I said earlier, when they threw everything, including the kitchen sink at him, the military's done its best to not just dismantle Khan's political party, but also dishearten his voters. The political convictions that are listed earlier, 31 years, 10 years for corruption, 14 years for corruption, 10 years for espionage, and another 7 years for adultery with his own wife, by the way. Those are just recent occurrences. Exactly. Besides that, 10,000 PTI workers and leaders of Khan's party are in jail. His wife is in jail. His deputy is in jail. His party has been stripped of its election symbol. And the man has essentially been immobilized from movement and campaigning across the country after surviving an assassination attempt. So they've done what they could, and yet the man, A, refuses to go away, B, refuses to die. Now, to your point about him being selected, sure. But to that point, effectively, Snesh, every Pakistani prime minister, perhaps going all the way back to the 60s, to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who was perhaps the Imran Khan of his time in that era populist setting. It all goes back to being greenlit by the generals, just because of the dynamics of the Pakistan army and its overarching role in Pakistan's polity. Calling Khan a babe of the army would be half the sentence. Sure, Khan may have been a babe of the army, but then so has every other prime minister who's preceded him. However, this particular election stands out because the law is such, the nature of the law is such, and Khan's legal maneuverings were such that despite being stripped of his own status of not running for election and his party not standing as the PTI, he got together under the spirit of the PTI, if not the banner of the PTI, under the spirit of the PTI, a coalition which was not just given momentum by his own messaging, but also smart tech, very savvy social media campaigning, lots of young people supporting him, Gen Zers, volunteers using artificial intelligence to fire up virtual rallies for him, fundraise for him from as far away as Texas to Toba Tek Singh. In effect, he's fired up a base. And the base right now, at this very moment, exactly 20 to the point of this interview, 27 hours since polls closed, there are millions of people who currently are still inspired by the Khan message and think they've been robbed of an election. Now, they can't go away. Khan can go away, but you're talking about the world's fifth largest country with the electorate. The registered voters are 128 million people. Now, that might not sound like much to you because just your UP voters are that size, perhaps, but that's still a pretty large collection of folks. And very importantly, around 35 million of these guys and girls, Snesh, are first-time voters, young voters, people who haven't been tainted by Pakistan's give and take. I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch my political culture. Sure, we'll work with the generals' culture. These people refuse to accept that. So the Gen Zers remind me today of the way they've come together. This almost reminds me back in the day of the 2008 Obama moment, when a lot of young people in this country, I'm currently living in New York, in this country, people got together, a lot of younger folks got together to elect the first Black American president. Khan is not coming for a first election. He's coming for a re-election, if at all. Yeah. But he's got a very different message. If Obama was doing a yes, we can, this guy's doing a yes, we Khan. It's quite different, but it's still the same.
You said the biggest loser in this election is the Pakistan army. But how did Pakistan Army get it so wrong? It was supposed to be, they were supposed to have a tight control over the entire machinery in Pakistan. If they could have wanted, they could have, while the rigging is currently on, we've seen multiple videos of thappa after thappa being put. But how did the Pakistan Army get it so wrong?
I think that's the 750,000 man question, right? This is the world's 5th largest army, and that's the number of soldiers and officers who work for it. And not just that, the army is a professional army, but the mighty ISI and the different agencies, there's a couple of dozen of them which work for them. And it's not just the army. You have to remember, the Election Commission of Pakistan is pro-military right now. The judiciary is pro-military right now. The bureaucracy is pro-military right now. The entire state machinery has not been able to figure this out. This is not just soldiers. This is civilians. This is bureaucrats. This is babus. This is forensic scientists and lawyers who can't figure out how to control the Khan machine. And yet, the biggest thing, of course, which they couldn't turn down, and they tried, was the power of the message. Social media, the only way Khan could reach out to people, he was doing it every day because he was banned from conventional media. You can't take Khan's name on Pakistani television today. You can perhaps print his name, depending on how you word it in the print newspapers, but you cannot on national television, private or public, take Khan's name. It got that bad. And yet, he's the only man. He's the one. Harry Potter is the one who cannot be mentioned. And yet, he's the hero in the story currently in that narrative. He's the one who's winning. But I think the army also got it wrong because they haven't been up to date and in touch with the new generation of voters. They've gotten all of that wrong. These are first-time voters. This is a completely different generation. Most of these kids were born in the 2000s. Pakistan currently has a huge youth bulge. It's got one of the largest youth bulges. There's a lot of unemployment at the younger level. There's a lot of economic anger as well. And the old parties, frankly, haven't evolved. They just haven't caught up with it. The only other way to also cross-check and verify this theory is that the only other person who has connected with the youngsters is young himself, relatively young, and that's Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, right? So they have the PPP under Bhutto has also emerged as the dark horse in this. So if Khan, right now, Khan may have been robbed, Nawaz has definitely lost, the army is the biggest loser, but if there's any net winner today, I would say it's the PPP, which has emerged as this dark horse, and only because Bilawal came out with a very fresh message for younger people and deployed techniques similar to Khan's. He came out, he interacted with the people, lots of selfies, lots of slogans designed to engage younger people. So what you're looking at is not just a political phenomena, but also a demographic phenomena, which the army and its cohort, its proxy, the PMLN, which is still doing your 90s sort of client patron baradri, you scratch your back, come over for a plate of nihari and a 10 lakh rupee check, and we can conduct business and you can be my candidate. That's how they still do business. Well, that's not how Pakistanis these days want to do business, and they've showed it in the ballot box.
Some would say that, would wonder how did the Pakistan army get it so wrong? And they would say that maybe this was part of Pakistani army tactics of ensuring that, while the independents will eventually go over to the Nawaz side, they will support his government, but it will also ensure that Nawaz Sharif is not that powerful, that he can never go beyond a limit or what the army will set. Unlike Imran Khan, who took on the army, Nawaz would never be able to do that. Is that a theory which is possible?
Well, the thing is that, once bitten, twice shy, and 3 times, you're just silly, right? Nawaz is a 3-time prime minister who's run into trouble every time with the army. Interestingly, out of Pakistan's 14 or 15 army chiefs, he's managed to somehow pick 5 of them, and he still runs into trouble with all of them. The guy gets his man to run the army, and yet the army turns against him, which shows that either there's something severely wrong with his decision-making process, but I don't think that. I think Nawaz is quite a savvy politician. By most yardsticks, he's the most experienced contemporary politician across South Asia. He was a chief minister of Punjab, which is the largest province in Pakistan, which would be the world's 10th largest country on its own. He was the chief minister of Punjab in 1984. That's even before Asim Munir was wearing his first pips as a lieutenant. So premised on that, Nawaz is a wily operator. The working theory is not just Nawaz's nature. Nawaz's nature is his problem to deal with, but Nawaz's friends, Nawaz's internal patronage-based system, Nawaz's allies in the Middle East, and he's really worked on those relations in the Middle East with those Arab kings who are big fans of the way Nawaz conducts business, and even Nawaz's very wily messaging for India, which the Pakistan army has been wanting to cozy up to. Nawaz has deployed a very different technique for Prime Minister Modi and India versus Imran. Imran got to shoot down an Indian MiG. Nawaz got to go attend Modi ji's inauguration with the gift of a Kashmiri shawl and called over Modi ji for a wedding to his own house. So the Pakistan army currently also needs Nawaz, not just for his compliance, but also because it has regional plans. It wants to open up trade again with the Arabs. That's where Nawaz comes in. It wants to normalize relations with the Indians. That's where Nawaz comes in. So Imran had an interesting geopolitical take as well, very independent-minded, but also not exactly the flavor of the month when it comes to the military's needs. That's another reason he had to go. Not just because he conducted things, it was his way or the highway, but also because of his ideas about the region, and especially Kashmir, which the military wants to figure out one way or the other, and not necessarily in a hot conflict.
The last question, since we're running short of time and you're a busy man today, just wanted to ask, who do you think will be the next Prime Minister of Pakistan?
Well, I mean, that's the 250 million man question, right? I mean, that's the number of people in that country, if half of whom are eligible voters, many of whom voted today. The overwhelming majority of the people who have showed where their interests lie. They haven't bought the military's case against Imran Khan. They haven't brought the state's case against Imran Khan. So in the case of the state versus Imran Khan has won. But in the case of the state versus the people, that decision is currently pending. But knowing Pakistan's politics, we are already hearing stories about how the PPP and the PMLN are talking. Nawaz is talking to Bhutto. Where that will go would be very interesting. While the Bhuttos and the Sharifs are not alike, if the Sharifs are very center-right, very pro-business, but very conservative, middle-class Islamist values, the Bhuttos are very liberal, very pro-women, pro-minorities, very socialist in their ethic, completely different policies for India with the Bhuttos, completely different policies for India with the Sharifs. So these are center-left versus center-right, but they get together usually when they have to conduct business against a third force. That third force is usually the army, but this time it's Khan. So they're beginning to talk. However, the Bhuttos seem to, if there is a coalition today, the Bhuttos will be in a position stronger than they've ever been, primarily because of the way they've emerged. And Nawaz is hemorrhaging. He's bleeding support. It really depends ultimately on people's negotiation skills. But I feel like if Nawaz Sharif comes to power, he's going to be a very weak prime minister. So will his brother or his daughter. They'll all be very weak contenders because Nawaz really has lost the people's mandate and respect today. But if the Bhuttos somehow manage to get the premiership, which, by the way, is very possible, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has already served as the youngest foreign minister of Pakistan. And rumor has it he wants to beat his mother's record or at least second it as the youngest prime minister of Pakistan. The recent performance and the face-off with Imran disposes Nawaz and puts Nawaz in a very tight corner of negotiations. So, or all of this could be hubris from Wajahat Saeed Khan. And guess what? Maybe the Supreme Court comes in any minute now and says, all right, we want to run an investigation on who turned off the lights. We want to know about these rigging allegations. And we want to go with the original returning officer results. And guess what? Imran Khan has 175 seats and Pakistan has one, as the commentator said back in 1992 when Imran played England at the World Cup. And it's that euphoria again. So all bets are off, Snehesh. It's Pakistan, never a dull moment. Lots of moving parts, but my wisdom, my very limited wisdom and experience tells me, I'm hardly wise, but my limited experience tells me that the Bhuttos the Bhutto Zardari combine is clearly capable of pulling off a coup to counter this coup, which some people are calling.